Okay, guys, it's me again, Alex. I just finished uploading the part 3, and there is a small amendment I want to make to it. So this is like kind of part 3.1. So I actually noticed it while I was like rewatching the recording while it was uploading. So remember when I was looking at the sim data and you know, ranting about these shapes being being the opposite to each other, and that how the car blips too much, and that it causes the engine to over-rev. So that all is true. So that hasn't changed. But I think the reason why it happens is not only this blip, the auto blip implementation. So let me illustrate what else I found. Let's go to this isolated downshift, right? So now, what I was thinking, or what I noticed is like that these points are not in sync. Like, you know, when the gear is engaged, the revs should instantly go to target revs. But it seems like when the white gear is engaged, the revs still drop and then they rise up slowly. And equally, when the red one is engaged here, they kind of drop slowly to the target rev. It should be instant. And the reason why it's instant is why we have this noise. So like on a real car, this noise, this oscillation is just like the gears, the dogs are smashing against each other, because it's metal to metal basically. And you have this on F3 as well, like, you know, this noise. So that was weird. And what I did then, I aligned these graphs just to illustrate it even further. So I'm just aligning so that this gear change is completely the same. And you see, like, they match the target RPM at the same time. So the request is at the same time, and then the correct RPM is reached at the same time. But they do it in different ways. The one that auto blips has to slow down to the target RPM, and the one that doesn't auto blip has to raise the RPM to the target RPM. So what does it look like? It sure as looks like clutch. It looks like the car is using clutch. And sure as fuck, I enabled the clutch channel. There it is. It's fucking clutching. It's using clutch. It's not like a sequential. Let me just to illustrate it better, so it's not as messy. I get another. I don't know, like that. Oh, sorry. Let's just get it on another workspace. So it goes into different groups, so it's not overlapping. So now so this is clutch, right? And so it's pressed or engaged fastly, and then disengaged slowly, and then this is the period when the car stays on the clutch. You see, this is the actual gear shift period, as in like how long it takes to shift the gears. But then there is lag between when the gears are engaged and when it disengages the clutch, and this lag is what causes, you know, the RPM continue to drop. Like the clutch already engaged on the white one, but the RPM is still dropping, well, because the driver is still braking, obviously. So of course this is not how it works in real life, because the car is not using, or the driver is not using any clutch in real car. This should not be happening. And in both cases the graphs should look differently. I mean, it still hits the limiter because of the goddamn auto blip. There's no question about that, right? But what it should have done, let's say the red one, right, with the blip, or without the blip, doesn't matter. So it would slow down to this point, as it does, and then once the driver downshifts, it would raise up to this point, which is slightly above this one, to here, then oscillate somewhere here, and just meet this line. So it would have been like this, with or without blip, doesn't matter. It would have looked like this. So none of these ones look like this. And so then I went to model files just to to check if that made any sense. And this is our model. And of course, as expected, clutch, auto clutch. Use on changes 1, which means true. Like upshift profile, non-downshift. I don't know what the fuck that means. Maybe this is the profile is how this should look, to emulate the leg movement of. So I don't know what that is, but it's enabled. I don't know what that is, min max. I don't know. Then this downshift profile, the auto blip. Look, the auto blip actually set to 0.7. The one that I was complaining, and I think these points, 1, 2, 3, or whatever, are these points, and this is probably the duration of auto blip. So it looks like it's fixable. I mean, I could say it just to 35% and just make it shorter, and it would look like this one, right? And then I would just disable the auto clutch completely because it's not needed. But even if we leave, well, we cannot leave. It should be disabled. It should be disabled somehow. Like this should be set to 0. There is this thing actually, and it looks like downshift profile. Oh, okay, this is the downshift profile. All right. So, and there's 3 points again, and they hit 3 points here on auto blip. And I think this downshift profile is the setting of how this looks, or how this looks on auto clutch. I think this is this profile, and these are probably durations in milliseconds. I think, because 250 is larger than 180, and sure as hell this point is further than this point. However, 150, yeah, well, also different. I don't know. I'm not sure if these are durations or values. Well, here's level, so I guess this is the duration. Oh no, sorry, yeah, it makes sense. This is auto blip. I should not be looking at. This is a different, like the spacing between the gears is these are different parameters. So what I should be looking at is just the shape of auto blip and the shape of the clutch, and they do look inverse, right? They look inverse to each other with a little bit of offset here. It's at how they're releasing, and they do look the same. Like this is the same point here, similar here, and a little bit of offset here. So I think these are the profiles. So must be fixable. So then the correct way would be to disable the clutch completely, then model the auto blip correctly. I mean correctly in quotation marks. Let's say we can make it same as on Renault. We will not make it same as on F3 because I don't think the game engine supports it, but at least somewhat correct. And that would be it. But it may be that the game actually requires to auto clutch. I'm not sure, like because I don't understand why he left it here. Like, what was the reason to enable this auto clutch to like, why was it like this? Because no cars use auto clutch. I mean, even if you model this after the very old one, the 307 for instance, even that didn't use drivers wouldn't use clutch on gear changes. So maybe it's actually the requirement of the game, like as if I say this to 0, it will not downshift no matter what. If that is the case, then we just make the profile of the clutch to match exactly the profile of the auto blip, which will be much shorter than this. So you know, it will be unrealistic clutch, obviously, but it's unrealistic that it's there to begin with. And that should give us the similar behavior here in RPM, and thus very similar feeling on the downshifts to the real car, because there will not be such a big gap in the clutch duration, and the blip will be less. You know, the car will not be hitting the ref limiter here, because it will blip just, you know, just the proper amount. And then because the clutch will be disengaged much quicker, you know, it will be forced to target RPMs much quicker, you know, as it should be. So yeah, I think this is worth investigating. By the way, the over-ref margin is set to 200. Now this is how much you can go above RPM. This is completely random. I just pulled it out of my ass. Actually, pulled it out of my ass. So this could be probably a bit better, but again, all these things are like, if it's 300 or 200, like, who cares? It's in the ballpark anyway. The biggest inconsistency is this, you know, is this nonsense. Like, and how do we fix this, if the game even allows us to fix this? Alright, so this is the amendment I wanted to make to the previous video, to, you know, to be fair, and, you know, less bashful against the auto blip, I guess, because the real problem is the clutch, is that the clutch is being used on the downshifts. Take care.